Thank you. Whenever you're ready.
My name is Matthew Posey. I'm from Ballackinwood. I'm a parent of a child in the Lower Merion School District. Over the past several months, we parents and taxpayers of this community have been told that this process that has resulted in the repeal of policies 134 and 137 and produced these ill-conceived replacements was an open, collaborative, and responsive public process. We were repeatedly invited to give feedback, and we were given assurance that our feedback matters. Now, recent records obtained under the Pennsylvania Right to Know law have revealed a different reality. An email exchange was dated April 9th, 2026, between Superintendent Rinelli and Board President Sautner. The superintendent directly instructed the board president to repeal policies 134 and 137, stating that the board must, and I quote, "see the vision in not allowing parents to totally opt out." Her response, 2 words, "got it." This dysfunctional exchange shows that our school district governance has failed for 2 reasons. 1, this process was entirely performative. While hundreds of parents were filling out surveys, attending these meetings, advocating to this board for an evidence-based approach to technology. This outcome of this process had already been decided. These meetings have been nothing but an inconvenience to be managed, and it's an embarrassing humiliation for everyone who feels like they would have been listened to. Second, the governance structure of this board, of this district, it's inverted. Under the Pennsylvania Public School Code, the school board's responsibility is to supervise the superintendent. While representing the citizens who elect them, the superintendent answers to the board. The board does not take directives from the superintendent on how to vote or what policy vision to accept. Now, this brings me to the critical question for every member of this committee tonight. Did the other members of this board and of this committee know that Dr. Rinelli had already directed Dr. Sautner to eliminate the opt-out rights a month before the public votes were taken? Or were you too led to believe that this matter was a genuine deliberation? That is my question, to be answered tonight. Now, finally, I'd like to point out that a member of our group, Dr. Lev, has stated repeatedly and publicly that Superintendent Rinelli told him in a private face-to-face meeting that the right to opt out would be eliminated. So it's clear if anyone ever doubted this account, these internal emails confirm his statements completely and further bolster his credibility in this matter. Decisive proof that this had been decided months ago. We've been told that Lower Merion taxpayers directly fund 85% of this district's budget. We do not pay premium local taxes to have this insulting rubber stamp school board governance. We expect an independent board that exercises oversight, listens to its constituents, and upholds the rights of parents. Thank you.
You're next. Go right ahead.
Hello. My name is Yair Lev, and I'm from Marion Station. So almost 5 months ago, about a third of the parents of one LMSD elementary school asked to opt their kids out of education technology for core subjects such as math. The principal, not only that the parents were denied and the request was rejected, but the principal was later removed from his position through a lateral reassignment. The movement spread throughout the district. Families sought to use their rights under policies 137 and 134 to receive an equivalent education without computers. But in April, the superintendent made it very clear to the board that he is expecting or demanding that those policies will be eliminated. Although the board members describe them as the reason that they're eliminating them, it's because it's not relevant or archaic or not to the times, we now know exactly why they were removed. Now I want to address the new policy. Despite promises from the board members when we met with them a couple of months ago that they would work with the community members, including throughout the summer on the new technology policy, our repeated requests to meet, email, talk to each other, provide feedback were not answered. And the proposed policy is inadequate and far from what many parents, including researchers, pediatricians, mental health professionals, university professors, tech experts and CEOs, and other experts requested. Silence. We hope it will be rejected. And now I want to look directly at the board members and say this. Our district faces real challenges involving equity and the achievement gap. It's not a secret. These are not just empty words, and you know this very well. Everything that I've learned through research, conversations with national and international experts show that increased screen use, including phones, but also school-issued Chromebooks, MacBooks, devices taken home, hurt students who have historically been underserved, especially the Black and the Latino students and families. I can show you if you want, and I can connect you many articles, and I can connect you to experts if you want to learn more about this. Consider a hardworking single mother raising 4 kids. She has less time to supervise every screen, including district-issued Chromebooks. Increased screen use is directly associated with worse academic, cognitive, and mental health outcomes. It is false to assume that sending a computer home with every child, especially children from underserved families, will automatically benefit them. Now, I really think that you have an opportunity to create an outstanding policy that protects every child, especially those who need the protection the most. But you must work with us, listen to us. We have pediatricians, we have psychologists, listen to us. You refuse to talk to us. You refuse to let us sit in their committees. There is refusal to talk to us. Now, we know that the pressure is being placed on you, huge amount of pressure. But what I'm asking you when I look at your eyes, Anna's not here, but I'm asking you to really look closely and think hard and feel in your heart what you really think is right for the families that you represent and for this entire district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Taylor Cromwell-Wiley, Balakin Wood. I had 1 comment and 3 questions. I was actually really excited to hear Dean suggest the same comment that I'd written down regarding the potential of adding screen time caps for high school. And I had the same idea of having, rather than a whole day, breaking it down to every class. I'm not exactly sure how the high school works yet, because my kids aren't there. But I thought that sounded like a great idea to give each class a breakdown. My other questions, as I was wondering about what we called screen time, because Curry Sutner, I heard you say that you suggested watching a video on a projector rather than watching it on a personal screen, because that way it wouldn't count as screen time. But to me, like, that is still definitively screen time. It doesn't matter what the screen is. And so hearing that, like, difference of interpretation kind of alarmed me to what other ways it could be interpreted. So I'd like some clarification on that. And then my other questions were regarding K-2. One of the reasons that was listed for K-2 having digital devices was for digital test preparation. And I was wondering which specific testing and diagnostics were done in K-2 that required that. And then my other question was about 5th grade. When 5th grade was moved to the middle school, district leadership said the change was logistical and that 5th grade will remain a part of elementary school in all substantive respects. But then why is 5th grade treated the same as 6th grade in the draft ed tech policy? For example, grades 5 and 6 are grouped together on receiving one-to-one devices and the time limits, while grades 3 and 4 will not receive the one-to-one devices. Thanks.
And that's the end of the block 5, right? That's the end of the block 5?
Yes.
Yep, okay, go for it.
All right, first, our high school students. Question, are you okay with this last year looking the same? I am okay at this point because we are moving to the bell-to-bell for 27-28, and it's not in this year's policy. Okay, our computer labs in use, we do not plan to go back to use computer labs. Securely guarantee non-access. As much as we can, I'll ask Andrew to weigh in on those 2 questions, right? Actually, on question 2 and then Ken on question 3. How secure can we guarantee, or how could securely guarantee, or is that a possibility? And if it's not, please name that.
There's really a handful of filtering products out there that focus on education. When we evaluated products, we thought securely was at the top of the list, but no filtering product is perfect. if something does slip through, there are channels for the staff to very quickly get something that is slipping through that should not be blocked. And that's what we've been doing in the past.
All right, thank you. And then, Mr. Roos, the question was, what is our district response to a breach if Securely has one, such as ones we might have had in the past?
Well, there's no one answer to that question. It would depend on the nature of the breach, who is responsible, what kind of information was breached, whether it constituted information that's required to be reported, for example, to the district attorney or to the community under the Data Breach Protection Act. There's a whole host of protections. So it really would depend upon, again, what the information was that was breached and who was responsible for the breach.
All right, number 3 and 4 were directed to the board. I'll answer number 5. Were we calling projector screen times? I'm considering that screen time as well. So a projector in a room showing a movie, that's screen time as well. K-2 test prep, there is no test prep in K-2. I don't believe that's in here. I haven't memorized everything, all these pages, but I don't believe test prep is in K-2 because they will not be taking any state testing. And 5th grade, so my understanding when I was not here, that 5th grade, when we moved 5th grade into middle school, that a lot of it was, okay, we're going to still treat them like elementary kids. Since then, again, before I got here, they really broke down the 5th and 6th grade into a lower middle school, and they treat them differently with the schedule and things like that, and 7th and 8th grade into an upper middle school. So that's how we're treating that with the technology policy. And then, again, the second
And just to reiterate, a screen in the middle of the classroom and a screen in front of your kid is the same screen time, so I misspoke on that one. I was literally just trying to figure out in my brain, how do you measure and how can you figure out how much screen time a high school kid gets? And I was thinking you wouldn't be able to capture that if you had it in the room. And so I misspoke on that one, so you're right. That's a
well,
screen.
and also elementary, right? Showing a movie.
Oh,
in class
elementary,
and things
definitely,
like
but
that, yeah.
for some reason it like hurt my brain and I wasn't catching it in high school, but I would absolutely catch that in elementary, so I misspoke on that one, so you're absolutely right. What were the 2 questions for the board? I'm sorry, I got lost on those.
Really comments about you holding me accountable and...
Oh, we absolutely hold, I have to look at that email to see where I think I sometimes answer got it when I received something, like I got it, but I have to look at it and answer you. We hold the superintendent accountable for everything that is literally our job as the board. We do not rubber stamp anything. I do not think that is humanly possible for any member of this board whatsoever because we are quite opinionated in all different directions. So please do not worry. We hold our position and our oath quite literally 100%. 134 and 137 were voted on, and I believe it was a 7-2 vote. And so even if that was a comment from me saying I agree with your comment in that email, which I do not think it was, but even if I did, that was one person on a team of 9, not 7. So that was the vote, that was the last meeting, and we've moved on to these 2 new policies. Let's make them the best as we possibly can.
All right, we have Meredith and Randy and Rebecca and Ginsha? What is it? Yes. Thank you, sorry.
Hi, I'm Meredith Briscoe-Basic, Marion Station. I just had a couple of questions for the board. The first is under the new policies, can families actually decline educational technology? So will families be allowed to decline one-to-one devices and ed tech for the core subjects like reading, writing, math, science, and social studies, and to do so without punishment, without stigma, or academic disadvantage? This would not apply to learning about technology and that planned instruction. My second question is K through 2 and grades 5 through 6 have been addressed, but looking at grades 3 through 4, I have a rising 3rd grader. I was hoping there could be a little bit of clarity provided on what actually would account for the 30 to 45 minutes per school day use. What is it that is requiring a 3rd or 4th grader to have that much screen time, especially if we take out just PSSA preparation, and we think about STEM, which at least as I understand it is an elective that the students do once a week. So where is that 30 to 45 minutes coming into play? What is the content of that? Thank you.
Hi, Randy Harris from Balakinwood. So I came with two questions, but I came up with a third while you were talking about the default to off. I wanted to understand a little bit more about what that means. So does default to off mean that if you're not teaching, then it's off because you don't want to use it for recreational purposes, but it's okay if mostly you're using the screen for teaching? Or is it that a whole sort of philosophical change, which would be your default is teaching with it off? The other question I had was in the AR with, for grades 7 to 8, which Dr. Weinstein was talking about a little bit, about the team-based teaching in the middle school. For the 90 minutes that are proposed there, how even as a team, how do you kind of, and I would never advocate for policing or micromanaging teachers because I am one, but how would that work? Like, you're working on a project, you know, one teacher, what happened right before you, what happens right after, how do you manage that? And then finally, also in the AR, grades 5 to 6, it indicates that devices shall not be used in school buildings in the morning, before classes begin, between classes, at lunch, during INE, unless it's educational. But for 7 and 8, that's not mentioned, and I wasn't sure if that was intentional, because now it's more okay, they're more independent and can use their time in that way when they have downtime. I'm hoping that it was an accident, but, you know, I wanted to check whether that was intentionally omitted for the older kids. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I'm also short here for the podium a little bit. I need some heels. I'm Rebecca Bertrand, and I live in Balakinwood, and I am a mother of a student going into 2nd grade this year. And so I just wanted a little bit more clarification on your K through 2 policy. Just going through it, some of the routine instruction, it's a little bit vague, and then it talks about state testing preparation and, if applicable, the diagnostic testing. So what would that entail? Is this, it says 3 to 4 times a year, so it's not going to be daily, it's not going to be weekly. Could we just have a little bit more clarification on that specifically, and how is that going to differ from previous years, just to kind of see that outlined, this year versus last year, etc. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Girish Ramaswamy, Balakinwood. I have a couple of questions and a couple of comments. So first question is, in this new version of the K through 12 policy, why did the board remove the language about, developmentally appropriateness throughout the policy documents? The standard, if you call that developmentally appropriate a little vague, you should point us to language that's much more concretely defined in this, that is replaced as developmentally appropriate. As parents, as educators, we kind of know what is developmentally appropriate as our kids grow through from elementary through kindergarten through middle school. So why was that removed? We think this standard is important enough to rise in the policy and not just be a simple regulation. So that's number one. I'll go back to what Dean had asked at the beginning on Student Wellness Committee from Policy 254. Dr. Nunley, I think you answered it, but I don't think any of us understood what it means. Just a simple yes or no. Yes, we will establish a Student Wellness Committee specifically focused on students' digital wellness, and in that we will include parents, guardians, students, educators, everyone else. Or no, that's not in our plan, that's not a big priority. Please give me a yes or no answer. Number 3, since you kind of mentioned that there is no diagnostic testing for K through 2, there's no state level testing, etc., why can't we unequivocally say no devices, no screens, absolutely whatsoever for K through 2? Why is that still so hard for us to say that a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old does not need screen for anything in schools? Why is that so hard? And finally, why did the new draft policy remove the explicit prohibition against social networking, chat rooms, non-assigned gaming sites, other non-educational activity on school district devices? We've heard recently that students were actually on gambling sites in middle schools. So we think it's appropriate to name all of these, and not just say any non-educational websites will be removed and keep it superficial. The final point that I'll make is that go through holistically across the entire school districts where screens make an appearance in a most superficial manner. I'll give an example and then walk away. We noticed that at our Kinwood Elementary School, iPads are there in the libraries, and kids can pick up a book during the library period in 5 minutes, and they can go and sit on the iPad. We informed the principal, who promptly removed all of the devices from the library. That's just a simple example of things working if you communicate, right? So as a parent, I would ask you to holistically sit down and kind of see where screens are rearing its head that you kind of don't even think about, and weed out every single possible place, and this will probably be a better place for students to grow. Thank you so much.
So, okay, let me go through the questions I'll answer, and Mr. Weinstein will answer a few as well. So the new policy, can parents decline technology? They cannot decline technology in the new policy. Mr. Weinstein, grade 3 to 4 clarity on the 30, 45 minutes a day, where might that come from? And you might as well batch the question of the testing and diagnostics and things like that another person asked a little later.
Well, the diagnostics, as we've been presenting, when we do a curriculum, it's 3 times a year, typically, beginning of year, middle of year, end of year. It captures the data in a better way that humans can do, so we can store it and compare it annually, year after year. In terms of the use, that what may comprise of the 30 minutes.
Well, can I interrupt you real quick?
Sure.
The second part of the diagnostics was, how is that different from previous years?
It's not.
It's not different. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's the same. Okay.
Yeah. The usages, there's plenty of them. Like, teaching is a really complex task. There's a lot of ways, like we keep saying, most of it is humanly led, and teachers are leading. There are times with active use where there are creation tools. Active use would be creating, collaborating, things like that. There are times where that happens. It's enjoyable, it's a creation, it's not a passive use where you're looking at a screen. So there are times when it can potentially happen. There are certain courses where it calls for it. I referenced coding and things like that that are part of curriculums across the country nationally, that again, when technology would do that better than humans, that's when it is. We're still talking about a small portion of the day.
Thank you. What does default to off mean? Yes, the second part of your answer question was what we mean by that. It's a philosophy that we don't lead with instruction. We lead with human interaction, and we're not computers forward. We expect the instruction to be more human-led than with a screen. The AR 7 to 8, 90 minutes, how would we monitor? Well, through teacher training, really. And the principals are going to have a big stake in the game here for the monitoring of how we monitor the time of any level in the instruction. No outside class 7 and 8, so it was mentioned in 5, 6, and there's been many iterations of this. Ms. Schaefer, was our intent to 7 and 8, no outside class time as well, or just 5th and 6th? I'm sorry, I don't remember the last iteration we have.
Yeah, I'm looking for that specific
Yeah.
language. Developmentally, we talked about increasing responsibility at the 7-8 level. They are assigned devices that they default to take home. So there is times when they're going to have it before and after school because of that default. So I think we were thinking about when they might have that device in their hands and our, ability, relative to.
Yeah, so we'll make that clear in the AR, the final version of the AR.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Next question, why did board remove developmentally appropriate or things like those languages? We wanted to, we had this discussion about removing things that would mean one thing to one parent and teacher, one thing to another parent and teacher, and we really thought that developmentally appropriate, well, what does that mean? It could have a different meanings for all of the 8 or 9 of us at this table. So we wanted to remove that ambiguity. Digital wellness, 254, is it or is it not in the plan? It is not in the plan. We are going to make that nutritional wellness. No state level testing, why can't we say no to screens? Yeah, we see the value in some of the areas that would be used in K2. Again, our hope is that it's not used very often. We want them present in the classroom for students who have specific needs with their IEPs and things like that. And as we monitor throughout the year, the ARs can change, and we'll make sure we're doing the right thing for the students. Why the new policy remove the names of certain types of social networking? Again, the iteration, I'm not sure that we intended to do that.
No, I mean, I think I can understand the benefit of the clarity of having some examples, and so we try to do that, but we know that those lists are never all-inclusive, so we can certainly consider where in the AR, if that is helpful for clarity purposes, to add that back in. I don't remember a specific reason not to include them other than that conversation.
Okay, and yeah, we will make sure we make that.
Sorry, I remember why we removed them, because under the security procedures, students shouldn't be able to access them. So we didn't want it to be confusing of where the accessibility was through the school district versus kids being able to get to them.
So we're gonna, Anna, can you say that again? Because it is really hard to hear you and hear your, or Megan, can you repeat that?
I think what Anna was sharing was that I think we ended up removing it because our filtering wouldn't allow for those things to be accessible in the first place. So by having those as examples suggested that they would be accessible, and our intent was to remove them, so it was clear that those sites should not be accessible given our filtering system.
Correct.
Do you want to address the library settings to a scrub? I thought that was a good point of like just checking the over our settings to remove. Sorry, I was just, one of the things, the last comment was more of a comment than a question, but this has come up multiple times in community settings, community conversations, and policy meetings was somebody said it once and had a really good name for it. It's like the passive use of technology, like in the room. Some parent once used the example of like there was an aquarium that was being projected on the wall, and the kids actually weren't looking at the real aquarium anymore in the classroom. That passive use of technology. Your point earlier was that in the library, when there's 1 million books, there's also an iPad. Remove the iPad. So do you want to address that?
Yeah, I think we have the same philosophy there. Where the technology is not needed or can't add any real value, we want to absolutely remove that. If there are situations that you feel cross over that line and don't align with that, what you proposed that you did was you let the teacher, the principal know, and it was removed. That communication is really important for us.
Okay, so this ends our portion of community conversations and community comments, and the last section we do is, Mr. Ruse, I'm looking to you on this section.
The next part is basically just to go through what changes you want made to what's the existing draft, so that you can determine whether or not you're going to recommend that the policy moves forward, each policy moves forward for second reading. Both policies are primed to move forward for second reading, and it's depending on what changes, if any, you make to what's already been suggested.
Great, so Megan and Ms. Schaefer and Dr. Rinelli, do you want to talk through kind of what edits that you're going to go through? As we reviewed in the beginning of the meeting, we were going through 45 minutes was the designated amount of time we have for community and good.
And then you cut us off here. So this is not a discussion. There's no collaboration. The way you're responding is ridiculous and does not facilitate a conversation.
Okay, and now we're moving on. Okay, so let's move on to Megan, Ms. Schaefer, And Dr. Rinaldi?
Stop the meeting, maybe have a recess.
Okay,
signed up
please,
for a comment.
feel free to cut the mic.
So after the public comments at the last meeting, so
Cut the
Anna
mic.
had asserted a number of times.
Call a re-
You're allowed.
We signed up for the public.
Okay, we're gonna call a recess. Thank you, everybody. Let's call a recess.
Because you won't answer any of
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna read the civility policy, because I just wanna make sure that everybody is well aware that this is a public government meeting, and when you're disrupting a public government meeting, you're actually breaking the law. We are not in public comment. So I please, I love the First Amendment, but the First Amendment follows a time, place, and matter ruling, and we are past the time and place and matter. So please, sir, I would ask you to stop so we do not have to continue this.
I would appreciate if the solicitor would answer
So
the assertion.
we are either going to recess this meeting again.
How about we resume public comment?
If
How much more is on the list?
anybody that continues to disrupt the meeting may be excluded from future meetings. So by continuing to talk, you are running the risk that you'll be excluded from participation.
Can the board secretary say how many remain?
Can security ask this individual to leave? Yeah, I've seen.
You want to take a step outside with me?
I would rather not.
Are you deciding on behalf of everyone here that the meeting is concluded? Because if you continue in the same, then we'll just finish it.
Yeah.
Would everyone like for the meeting to continue with public comment? Yeah.
Excuse me, the meeting is not continuing in public comment. We have two options. We can either continue the meeting and follow the proceeding for making edits to this policy, or we can close this meeting and continue on Zoom. That is the two options. The only option that we have for you, sir, is to be quiet or to leave the room. That is your right as a citizen of this country to follow the rule of law and to follow the democracy, which is ask for civility in a pluralist democracy. So right now, this is your only two options, to please leave the room or please stay and listen. That is your two options. Which one would you like to take?
Public comment.
Okay, we are closing the meeting and we will be on Zoom in 5 minutes. Thank you. This meeting is now officially closed in public. Okay, everyone, thank you for your patience. We're going to get started. We are officially bringing this meeting back to order. We are in the final phases of this meeting, so we have 2 points of order to do at this point in time. We will go around and review any edits we have to policy 141 and 142, any edits for both of those, and then we will vote as a policy committee to move 141 forward or in 142 forward or not. So let's begin with suggested edits that Dr. Rinaldi and Ms. Schaefer, that you've heard from the board and from the community, that we have heard that we are moving forward into 141 and 142. So I'll turn it over to either one of you, and I can mute myself so both of you can feel free to unmute and speak.
Okay, so as far as the policy is concerned, no edits of major concern, some typographical errors, maybe rearranging a sentence or two. The breadth of the changes that we'll look to make and consider as an administrative team are to the ARs. So we will do that, and we'll make sure any of the questions that we had from the public tonight or any of the questions we have from the board will make very clear as we move forward for the August 17th meeting.
No, I think the notes I have reflect places where we can clarify some of the work that we're doing, add and enhance sort of the transparency for the community. I think a lot of what Dr. Rinaldi spoke with about earlier in the meeting, we can highlight in the AR in related communications around the new policy in the ARs.
So I'll ask my fellow committee members, Mr. Herman, Ms. Kerber, and Anna Shrek, any comments, feedback on what you just heard from Dr. Rinelli and Ms. Schaefer?
No comments on my end. I trust
You can
that,
just talk. I can use mine.
Yeah.
Frank and
Okay.
Megan will implement
I
the
just
changes.
wanted to mention a couple things that, some additional feedback from board members, which includes the numbering, which is out of sync. On page 5, prohibit use is 5, is out of sequence. 6 is missing.
I thought we caught that.
And I think did we talk about reintroducing developmentally appropriate to be consistent?
I spoke about it. There was a question regarding the word. I gave you the reason. I gave the public the
Okay.
reason why we took it out because it was ambiguous.
Okay, all right.
So that's.
I think that's it.
Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Perfect.
So as to the policy for policy 141, we were going to take a look at, or the administration was going to take a look at for 5th and 6th grade about, sorry, 7th and 8th grade on page 3 about the possibility of putting that they should not be used in school buildings in the morning before classes begin. I'd also see if it's possible to include for 5th graders and 6th as well as 7th and 8th about after school as well, bus ride home, and if there's like a waiting period before they get on the buses, if that's an option as well. And then to take a look at the policy, the second policy regarding safety monitoring and privacy as to whether or not a more descriptive use of the technology that we're currently using, whether or not that's appropriate in the policy or in the administrative regulations, or both. So if we could take a look at that and just see, and then also just overarching, there are some areas, and I'm happy to go into more detail later on, but just, for example, like on page 3 of early elementary, it says any use shall be like minimally, the word minimal, limited, like there are some very broad and vague terminology that if we can maybe strengthen those so that they're a little bit more clear to provide teachers and principals more guidance so that there's not the ambiguity. I'd use the example like that one of the public had said about like the projectors, and that there was like there was a different interpretation that, Curry had that other board members didn't have. So if we can maybe flush that out a little bit more, it might be helpful so that there's less ambiguity, so that there's less confusion. And then there's other questions, obviously, for the administrative regulations that we brought up before about just for consideration from the administration about timing and all the other ones, but I don't have to go back into that, but for consideration of that as well, please.
And I'm going to read Anna's comment into the record. No comment on my end from Anna. Thank you. And I'll just reiterate what I said in the meeting. I think, Frank, a lot of what you shared in the beginning of the meeting was a lot of that clarity. And I do not mind if they go into the ARs or into the policy, but I think that clarity of definition was really eye-opening and took away that gray. What do you really mean by that? Like, what is the clarity around that? I think that would be really helpful. And that, for me, really solved a lot of my concerns I had around data privacy. And Megan, you had shared earlier about like connecting the data privacy contracts we had and the policies that we have back into the ARs of 142. And I think if we can do that, I think the policies are sound, but having that extra layer of support and clarity in the ARs will then really clarify. Because again, these tools are all meant to be together and work together. I also think, there is nothing wrong with having an overarching memo on both of these policies and ARs that say, this is what we believe, this is where we stand. And that's almost what your memo did tonight. So layering them together, I think helps the community understand what is our standards, and then what is our vision, and then what is our practice. And that's how all three stack together. And so as long as that we're using them that way, that our teachers and our schools are, ensuring that they're being taught that way through training, and that we're evaluating them that way. And like Scott, to the point around teacher training, and we talked about this, how are they being incorporated back into, I always forget the name of the teacher training system that we have, the evaluation system. No, what's the review process? Yeah, the frameworks. So like, thinking of that through like, how do we pull the curriculum that we're training them on and the standards and the values back into the framework? Like, how do we really pull that all the way through? Again, that's your job. That's not the job of the board, but holistically, how do we see this as a systems-wide change? Policy sets the vision, but it's when we really take it on as a systems-wide change that we move it forward. It took us 20 years to get here with technology. It's going to take us a while to roll this back. And that means in every aspect of the school system, from curriculum to policy to everything we're doing, and we're really moving it forward. But I think holistically, we have to think through in that way too. So that would be wonderful. Great. Thank you. Okay. So now I guess we vote to move 141 and 142 forward. Ken, do we do that as two separate votes, or can we do them together? Okay.
Well, why don't you do it separately?
Okay.
In case one wants to move one out the other.
So I'd like to know if each one of the policy committee members will recommend to move 141 forward to the board on the August 17th meeting for adoption. Thank you.
Aye.
I say aye. Anna?
Aye.
I don't hear Anna yet, but Jason, Juanita?
Aye.
Juanita says yes.
So I think at this point, I'd rather have it pushed off to another meeting so that we can go over the corrections of the policy and the administrative regulations. I think there's some additional work that can be done, and I'd love to get the feedback and then do it. I think that there's no rush. I think that Dr. Nell is already implementing it, he said, for this upcoming school year. So unless there's some sort of reason why it needs to be in the August meeting, my position would be is to wait until those changes are made and then do it at the following meeting.
I think there is an important reason to move it forward. We have 3 to move it forward, so we can move it forward for a recommendation, but I still would like you to address that, Dr. Anelli.
Yeah, sure. So as we prepare our training for our teachers, I really want to make sure that we do everything possible as the board policy would drive. I understand what Mr. Herman said about we're acting as we're doing it because you gave us that direction, but I still think any ambiguity, if we have we start the year and there are changes in September or October or anything like that, would really cause some more issues for us than we would like to welcome. So, and then again, I don't know that we'd be proposing another AR in at the August meeting because that's administratively driven. It would be public knowledge, but it wouldn't be for that approval.
Okay, so it's recommended to move forward. I'm recommending to move 142 forward to the August 17th meeting. And I have a vote on that? Anna, Juanita, Jason?
I'll sit for adoption.
For adoption, sorry. Get all the clarity there. Anna's yes.
Aye.
And for the same reason, I would just, same reason as noted before.
Got it. So we have 3 to move it forward for adoption at the August 17th meeting with the recommended edits as well. With the same, Dr. Ranelli, I'm assuming the same reasoning, clarity for the teachers and training and everything is important to move forward with the new school year. Great. Okay, great. And so with that, our policy meeting has adjourned. Anything else for when's our next meeting?
August 17th.
No, that's our next business meeting, you're right, is August 17th, and September 14th is our next policy meeting. See you all then. Thank you, Amy. Appreciate that. Everybody have a good night.